I pushed the kitchen door open, rubbing my eyes. The clock on the microwave glowed past midnight. I only wanted water, maybe a snack, nothing more. Then I froze. Callum, a voice broke the silence. Marissa stood by the counter, the faint glow from the stove light framing her. She wasn't in her usual robe or nightgown. She was wearing my shirt. The black one I had left in the laundry room. It fell against her thighs, too loose around her shoulders, too intimate for words. I gripped the doorframe. That's my shirt. Looked down as if noticing it for the first time, then tilted her head with the smallest smile. It was clean. I didn't think you'd mind. Of all the things in the house, you chose that. My voice cracked sharper than I meant it to. Do you want it back right now? She raised a brow, almost teasing. I swallowed hard. You shouldn't be in it at all. Her laugh was quiet, soft, the kind that cut deeper because it didn't. Belong in this hour. You make it sound scandalous. Ass! It's only fabric. It's not only fabric. It's mine. She leaned against the counter, arms folding under her chest, and the shirt shifted with her. I tried not to look, but my eyes betrayed me. You're acting like I broke into your room and stole it, she said. Voice calm, eyes fixed on me. You did take it without asking. I asked the laundry basket, she replied, and for the first time, her smile faltered. Something heavier lingered in her gaze. I stepped closer, not enough to touch, but enough to feel the air change between us. Oliver wouldn't like this. Lips pressed together. Oliver isn't here. My chest tightened. He's upstairs, asleep. Her voice dropped lower. You really think he notices what I wear to bed? The question hung between us like a blade. My mouth went dry. I wanted to turn and leave, to end this, but I couldn't move. You're playing with fire, I whispered. She tilted her head again, but the teasing edge was gone now. And what are you doing, standing here, watching me in it? I clenched my fists at my sides. I don't want to be. Then go. Her eyes locked with mine. No one is stopping you. I should have walked away. My legs refused. The silence pressed harder, louder than any words we could speak. Finally, I broke it. Why me? Why my shirt? Her breath caught, and she turned. Slightly toward the sink, fingertips running along the edge. Because it smells like something real, not cologne, not office air, not lies. I felt a knot in my stomach. You're talking like he's the liar. She glanced at me again, eyes shimmering under the dim light. You've seen it too, haven't you? The way he disappears into his work. The way he shuts me out. I forced my voice steady. It doesn't make this right. Nothing about this house feels right anymore. Her hand pressed flat against the counter, as though she needed to steady herself. And then you walked in. My chest rose faster than I wanted it to. I'm not your solution. Didn't have to be, she said. You already are. Her words hit me harder than they should have. I wanted to deny them, to throw them back at her. But my throat refused. I turned toward the fridge, yanked it open, letting the cool light spill across us. I grabbed the first bottle of water I saw, twisting the cap too tight. You should change, I muttered. She didn't move. Do you want me to? I froze. Bottle halfway to my lips. Hey, say it like you mean it. I met her eyes, forcing. Strength I didn't feel. Change, Marissa. Now. For a long moment, she didn't react. Then she pushed away from the counter, slowly walking past me toward the hall. As she brushed by, the fabric of the shirt grazed my arm. She stopped at the doorway, glancing back. You're shaking. I hid my hands behind the water bottle. You're imagining things. Her smile returned, faint, but knowing. No, I'm not. Hey. She disappeared into the hall, footsteps light against the floor. I stood in the kitchen, heart pounding, water bottle untouched. I wanted to believe the night ended there, that I had done the right thing by resisting. But as I walked back toward my room, the image of her in my shirt followed me like a shadow I couldn't shake, and deep inside, a voice whispered that this was only the beginning. Asterisk. When I opened my door in the morning, a neat fold of black fabric lay on the floor. My shirt, clean, pressed, smelling faintly of detergent and something else I couldn't name. She had left it there, a message without words. I picked it up, held it for a moment, then shoved it into my drawer. Downstairs, Oliver was already at the table, scrolling on his phone. Marissa stood at the counter, pouring juice. "Morning," Oliver said without looking up. "Morning," I answered, sliding into a chair. Marissa turned, glass in hand. "Juice, yes." My voice sounded too quick. She placed the glass in front of me, her eyes locking with mine for a second too long. Then she looked away, sitting across from Oliver. He glanced at her plate. "No toast?" I wasn't hungry. She pushed eggs around with her fork. I forced myself to eat, but I could feel her eyes flicking to me. Each glance was sharp, deliberate. As if she wanted me to remember last night, Oliver finally set his phone down. "So Callum, did you sleep?" "Not really," he laughed. "You need better pillows," Marissa cut in. "Maybe he just had too much on his mind." Her words burned hotter than the coffee I sipped. Oliver didn't notice. He grabbed the newspaper, flipping it open. "Big meeting today, I might be home late." Marissa's jaw tightened. "Of course you will." The silence that followed was heavier than his words. I reached for the salt, and her hand brushed mine.
Ow.
It wasn't an accident, not the way her fingers lingered for a heartbeat too long. I pulled back quickly. "Sorry." "No need to be sorry," she said quietly. Oliver rustled the paper. "Was that?" "Nothing," I said, forcing a calm tone. Marissa stood, carrying her plate to the sink. "I'll clear yours too, Oliver." He smiled at her. "Thanks, love." I stayed frozen, heart racing, while she reached for my plate. Her hand brushed my arm again, slower this time. My throat tightened. Oliver kept reading. "Traffic will be a nightmare." "Then don't. Rush home," Oliver chuckled. "You sound like you don't want me back." She dropped the dishes into the sink with a sharper clang than necessary. "You're the one who doesn't want to be here," he frowned. "What's that supposed to mean? Exactly what it sounds like?" She turned on the tap back to us. I shifted in my chair. "I'll get going. I've got work." Oliver waved me off. "Good luck with that." I stood, but as I passed her, she whispered so low, only I could hear. "Did you think about it all? Night 2? My steps faltered. "Stop." She glanced over her shoulder, eyes daring me. "Psst. You didn't?" I left the kitchen without answering, but her words followed me out the door. Later, as I grabbed my keys, she appeared at the foot of the stairs. "You forgot this?" As she held up my jacket, I reached for it, careful not to touch her hand. "Thanks." Eyes searched mine. "You're not going to pretend last night didn't happen." "I already am. You're lying, Marissa." I kept my voice low. "He's my brother." Her expression hardened, though her voice trembled. "And I'm his wife." "Do you think I've forgotten?" I clenched my jaw. "Then why are you doing this?" She stepped closer, jacket still in her hand, refusing to give it to me. "Because he doesn't see me." "You do." I tore the jacket from her grip, my hand brushing hers in the struggle. My chest felt tight. "This has to stop." "Then say it like you mean it," she whispered. "I mean it." Her lips curved in. The faintest smile, "No, you don't." The sound of Oliver's footsteps came from the hall. She stepped back instantly, folding her arms. Oliver appeared, briefcase in hand. "Ready?" I shoved my arms into the jacket. "Yes," kissed. Her cheek. She didn't move. He didn't notice. "Don't wait up," he told her, then nodded at me. "See you tonight." We walked out together, but my mind stayed in that kitchen, with her eyes on mine, her voice echoing inside me all day. I couldn't shake it. The folded shirt, the brush of her hand, the whispered challenge, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't a game. It was the start of something I had no control over, and I knew it. Oliver tossed his keys onto the counter. "Callum, I need a favor." I leaned against the wall. "What kind of favor?" "Take Marissa to run errands tomorrow. I'll be out of town." Marissa glanced at me, then at him. "I can handle it. Myself." He kissed her cheek without noticing her stiff posture. "No point dragging yourself around alone. Callum can help." I cleared my throat. if that's what you want. Oliver grinned. Perfect. You'll survive without me for a day, won't you? Marissa forced a smile. I'll try. The next morning, she waited by the door with a shopping list in hand. You don't have to do this. Apparently I do. She studied me for a moment. Do you ever tell him no? Not often. She opened the door, stepping into the sunlight. Maybe you should. At the grocery store, the air smelled of bread and coffee. I pushed the cart while she picked out vegetables. A woman stocking shelves glanced at us. Your wife has good taste, she said with a smile. Before I could respond, Marissa answered, Thank you. The woman moved on. My stomach tightened. You didn't correct her. Marissa dropped tomatoes. Into the cart? Why should I? It wasn't worth explaining. It was worth it to me. She looked up, her eyes steady. Then maybe you should have said something. I gripped the cart handle harder than necessary. You're pushing this? Too far. Or maybe you're pulling away too fast. I stared at her, unable to form an answer. She turned back to the shelves, humming under her breath. On the drive home, she reached for the radio. Oliver's voice echoed in my head, complaining about her playlists. Not the same old jazz again, I muttered. She smirked. You sound like him, the speakers filled with a soft, aching ballad. Her fingers tapped against the window. He hates this song, she said. Then why play it? Because I love it. Her voice trembled on that last word. I kept my eyes on the road. He doesn't know that. He knows. He just doesn't care. I pressed harder on the wheel. You don't mean that? She faced me, her gaze sharp. I mean every word. He notices numbers, contracts, clients. He doesn't notice me. That's not true, isn't it? When was the last time you saw him look at me the way you're looking at me now? I jerked my head forward. I'm not looking at you like anything. Yes, you are. Car filled with silence, the song still playing. Her words louder than the music. I turned the volume up, hoping it would drown her out. It didn't. When we pulled into the driveway, I killed the engine. Neither of us moved. She spoke first. Do you know what the cruelest part is? What? I stopped asking him to notice me years ago. I just wanted to feel seen again. Throat burned. You can't put that on me. I'm not putting it on you. I'm telling you why I'm standing here breathing instead of disappearing. I unbuckled my seatbelt. This conversation ends here. She reached out, her hand, brushing my wrist as I pulled away, opening the door. Yes. She followed me inside, her voice low, cutting through the quiet. Then why didn't you stop me in the store? Why did you let that woman think I was yours? I spun to face her, because I didn't know how to stop you without making it obvious. Her lips curved faintly. So you chose silence. It was safer. For you, she whispered. I stepped back, putting space between us, for both of us. Her eyes lingered on mine, heavy with something I couldn't name. She turned away, dropping her bag on the counter. Oliver's voice echoed in my mind. Easy, careless, trusting. Callum can help. I stared at Maurice's back, her shoulders tense, her movement sharp. She turned suddenly, catching my gaze again. Tell me you didn't feel it, she said. I didn't. Liar. The word hit like a slap. I opened my mouth to deny it again, but nothing came out. She shook her head, a bitter smile forming. You don't have to admit it. I already know. I grabbed my keys and walked out before I lost control in the car. I sat gripping the steering wheel, breathing hard. The truth was simple, and it terrified me. She was right. I had felt it, and it was pulling me somewhere I wasn't supposed to go. The living room was dim, lit only by the soft glow of the television. Oliver had left hours ago, saying the meeting would run late. Marissa sat at the other end of the couch, legs curled beneath her, holding a blanket across her lap. She glanced at me. You didn't have to stay up. I wasn't tired, I said, though my eyes burned. You're a bad liar. So are you, I replied, shifting in my seat, her head tilted. What am I lying about? That you're watching the show? You haven't looked at the screen once? She laughed under her breath. Maybe I don't care what happens to. The characters? Then why leave it on? Noise helps. Keeps the house from feeling empty. Her words hit harder than she meant them to. I kept my gaze fixed on the flickering light. It doesn't feel empty. She turned toward me, doesn't it? He leaves before sunrise, comes back after midnight, and when he is here, he's only half here, you've noticed. I stayed quiet. Say it, she pressed. I met her eyes. Yes, I've noticed. Her lips curved into something between a smile and a grimace. At least one of you is honest. I shifted again, gripping the edge of the cushion. You can talk to him, I have. Her laugh was sharp, bitter, nods promises and then does nothing. But you know, the last time he actually saw me, not just looked, but saw me. I swallowed. He loves you, Marissa. Love without presence isn't love. She tugged the blanket tighter, voice shaking. I could walk into a room wearing red silk, and he'd still be buried in his laptop. My chest tightened. Maybe he thinks he's doing it for you, for the future. Her eyes glistened. What good is a future when the present feels like a cage? I didn't answer. My silence said enough. She leaned back, her shoulder brushing mine. The contact was light, almost accidental, but it froze me. Do you know what hurts most? She whispered. What? He used to make me laugh. I can't remember the sound of my own laughter when it was real. I felt her heartbeat through the small space between us. I wanted to move, to escape the pull, but I couldn't. You shouldn't be telling me this, I said. Who else will I tell? The man who can't hear me. You're crossing a line. Her head tilted closer, resting near my shoulder. And you're letting me. I closed my eyes for a second, forcing my breathing steady, because pushing you away would hurt worse than letting you stay. Her lips parted, but no words came. Out, the silence stretched heavy, suffocating, charged with everything neither of us dared to admit. Then the front door opened. Oliver's voice carried in. I'm back. Marissa jerked upright, pulling the blanket higher. My chest felt like it would burst. He walked in, loosening his tie. You two still awake? Thought you'd be out cold by now? Marissa smiled faintly. Couldn't sleep. Oliver sat between us, unaware of the storm he had interrupted. Long day. You wouldn't believe how many times the deal almost fell through. He started talking about contracts and clients, his voice filling the room, but my mind wasn't on his words. I could still feel the ghost of Marissa's head against my shoulder. I could still hear her bitter laugh, and I knew restraint had never cost me so much. The rain started halfway through the drive, soft at first, then suddenly pouring like the sky had split open. I gripped the wheel tighter as the wipers fought to keep up. Marissa's voice was quiet. We should pull over. Visibility's terrible. It slowed, steering toward a gas station lot. But the storm was too heavy. The lot was flooded. I pulled onto the shoulder instead, the car shuddering under the pounding rain. She leaned forward, watching water streak across the windshield. It feels like the world is washing itself clean. I laughed nervously, or drowning, her head. Turn toward me, you always see the darker side of things. I see the real side. Maybe that's why you notice what Oliver ignores. Her words cut deeper than she realized. I stayed quiet, eyes fixed on the storm. She shifted in. Her seat. What did you dream about when you were a kid? Why? Because this feels like one of those moments where people share things they don't usually say. I exhaled slowly. I wanted to travel, not vacations. Real travel. Backpacking, getting lost, finding places no one talks about. Freedom was the answer to everything. Why didn't you? Life, money, responsibilities, excuses. I shrugged. What about you? Her lips pressed together before she spoke. I wanted a house filled with laughter. Not fancy, not perfect. Just a place where I felt seen. My throat tightened. And you don't feel that now? She turned. Back to the rain. You already know the answer. Lightning lit up the car for a split second, and I saw her eyes glisten. Marissa, I said softly. She shook her head. Don't. If you say my name like that, I won't be able to pretend. Anymore? The air grew heavy, the rain loud enough to drown out my heartbeat. though I felt it pounding. Then stop pretending, I whispered. Her eyes snapped to mine, wide, vulnerable. Do you have any idea what you're asking? Yes, my hands tightened around the steering wheel. I'm asking you to be honest, at least with me. She inhaled sharply. If I say it out loud, I can't take it back. Neither can I. Her chest rose and fell too quickly. You think this is simple? It isn't. He's your brother. He's my husband. And yet when I'm near you, I remember what it feels like to be wanted. I clenched my jaw. Do you think this is easy for me? Every second I fight it, every glance, every word. I don't want this, but I can't stop it either. She leaned closer, her voice trembling. Then what are we supposed to do? Survive. Tonight, my voice cracked. Just tonight. Her hand brushed mine on the gear shift. The touch was light, fleeting, but it burned like fire. Callum, she whispered, you make me feel alive. Do you know how dangerous that is? I swallowed hard. It's the only thing keeping me from breaking. Her eyes searched mine, desperate, torn. The rain kept hammering the roof, sealing us in, as if the world outside had ceased to exist. For a moment neither of us spoke. Her breathing quickened, her lips parted, and I felt the space between us dissolve. Then she pulled back, pressing her palms against her knees. If we cross this line, there's no return. We already crossed. At the moment we admitted it, she looked at me, tears forming. You're right. We sat in silence, trapped by the weight of truth and the storm that refused to let us leave. When the rain finally softened, neither of us moved. Should we go? I asked, though I didn't reach for the ignition. Her voice broke. If we leave? Now, I'm afraid I'll still feel you next to me when I close my eyes tonight. I turned my head slowly, meeting her gaze again. You will, because I'll feel you too. The storm had passed outside, but inside the car, it was only beginning. Asterisk. I carried the last of the grocery bags into the kitchen. The rain from earlier still clung to my clothes, damp and heavy. Thank you, Marissa said, taking the bag from my hand. Her fingers brushed mine a little longer than necessary. I forced a smile. No problem. Oliver should be back soon, right? She set the bag down slowly, like the words had landed heavier than I intended. He texted, said he might be late again. Work. Always work. Her tone was clipped, but her eyes softened when they met mine. You stayed when you didn't have to. You could have just dropped me off. I leaned against the counter. Didn't seem right, leaving you to carry all that alone. Her lips curved faintly, but there was no real joy in it. That's the thing about you. You notice the small things. I'm not sure what you mean. You see me? She whispered, almost like she was afraid to say it too loud. My chest tightened. Marissa. She stepped closer. When Oliver looks at me, it's like he sees a version of me he built in his head. A wife who smiles, hosts dinners, stays quiet. But you, she stopped, her breath quickening. You actually hear me? When I talk, I swallowed hard. He cares about you. I know he does. Caring isn't the same as seeing. Her voice cracked. The space between us shrank. I could smell her perfume, faint but warm. My pulse hammered in my throat. You shouldn't say things like that to me, I said, though I didn't step back. Why not? Because it makes it harder to pretend nothing's happening. Her eyes searched mine. Maybe I don't want to pretend anymore. The words hit me like a storm surge. My hand twitched at my side, aching to close the distance. Marissa, I said carefully, you're my brother's wife, and I'm also a woman who feels invisible. She was so close now that the air seemed to vibrate. My voice dropped. You don't look invisible to me. Her breath caught. And why does it feel like you're the only one who notices? Resolve fractured. The silence between us became unbearable. My eyes flicked to her lips. She leaned in barely an inch, her whisper trembling. Tell me this isn't real. I can't. The world seemed to vanish, just the two of us pulling towards something inevitable. My heart raced and her eyes fluttered shut. The sound of tires crunching on gravel cut through everything. Headlights swept across the window. Her eyes flew open. She jerked back, putting distance between us, just as Oliver's car door slammed. Outside, my chest heaved like I'd been holding my breath for hours. She grabbed a grocery bag, her hands trembling. "Go act normal, Marissa, please." I stepped back, forcing myself to the other side of the kitchen, just as Oliver's keys jingled at the door. He walked in, shaking rain off his coat. "Wow, you two got caught in the storm?" The voice was steady, but her hands clenched the bag too tightly. "Callum helped me with the groceries." "Good man," Oliver said, clapping me on the shoulder. "Appreciate it, brother." I forced a nod, my throat dry. "Anytime." Oliver kissed Marissa's cheek without noticing how stiffly she stood. He moved toward the fridge, humming, oblivious. I glanced at her. She met my eyes for half a second, her expression raw, unfinished, before she looked away. And in that instant, I knew we hadn't kissed, but something far more dangerous had already happened. Oliver tossed his keys onto the counter that morning, his tone casual, but his eyes sharp. "You and Marissa have been running a lot of errands together lately." I kept my voice light. "Just helping out. You're busy, and it's easier with two people." He smirked, though it didn't reach his eyes. "Sure, she always did prefer good company." Marissa entered the room, drying her hair with a towel. "What are we talking about?" "Nothing important," Oliver said quickly, though his gaze lingered on me for a second too long. That evening, the three of us went to a family dinner at our parents' house. The living room buzzed with chatter, cousins and uncles filling glasses and passing plates. Oliver guided Marissa toward the couch, but she slid down beside me instead. I shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe you should sit next to Oliver." She smiled, her voice warm. "We'll all end up together anyway. Does it matter where I start?" Oliver's jaw tightened. He dropped into the armchair across from us, eyes flicking between her hand, resting near mine, and the way she leaned toward me when she spoke. My cousin Matthew grinned, oblivious. "Callum, remember when you tried to impress that girl in high school by climbing the water tower?" Everyone laughed. Marissa touched my arm, laughing harder than anyone else. "You, that doesn't sound like you at all?" I forced a grin. I was an idiot. Oliver's stare could have cut through stone. Still are sometimes. The table quieted for a beat before the conversation shifted again. But I felt the weight of his words, heavy and pointed. Later, over dessert, Marissa leaned closer. "You're quieter than usual? Something wrong?" "I'm fine," I muttered. "You don't seem fine." I lowered my voice. "You shouldn't laugh at everything I say like that. It makes him notice." "Maybe I want him to notice." Froze. "Why would you want that?" Her eyes searched mine. "Because maybe if he sees what he's about to lose, he'll finally wake up." "That's dangerous, Marissa. So is this." Her voice was almost defiant. Across the room, Oliver was watching us. The intensity in his eyes made my stomach knot. Our mother clapped her hands. Family photo time. Everyone gathered in the dining room. Oliver stood behind Marissa, his hand resting stiffly on her shoulder. I stood at the edge of the group. When the camera flashed, Oliver leaned down, whispering something in Marissa's ear. She nodded, her smile faint. As the photo ended, he caught my gaze. The look wasn't casual. It was sharp, deliberate, a warning. Without words, the ride home was quiet. Oliver drove, his hands gripping the wheel tighter than usual. Marissa sat in the back with me, though she could have taken the passenger seat. Oliver spoke without looking at me. "Funny how people gravitate toward each other. Comfort, I guess." My throat felt dry. "I think everyone was just trying to fit on the couch." "Right," he said flatly. "Just a couch." Marissa broke the silence with a light laugh. "You're reading too much into it." Oliver's eyes met mine in the rearview mirror, steady and unreadable. "Am I?" I looked away, pretending to focus on the lights outside the window. When we got back to the house, Oliver carried the leftovers inside, leaving me and Marissa lingering by the car for a brief second. Her voice was low. "He knows." "I know," I whispered back. She touched my hand quickly, and pulled away before Oliver returned. Inside, Oliver set the food on the counter and turned toward me. His smile was faint but cold. Good night, Callum. Sleep well. The way he said it told me everything. It was no longer just my brother. He was my rival. And I had no idea how much longer I could keep the truth from exploding. Asterisk. I almost tripped over it when I opened my bedroom door that morning. A folded piece of paper, small and plain, resting against the carpet. I picked it up, my heart already racing even before I unfolded it. Thank you for seeing me. That was all it said. 7 words, nothing more. But it felt heavier than any book I had ever held. At breakfast, Oliver scrolled through his phone, half listening to the news. Marissa poured him coffee, her movements steady, practiced. I slipped into my chair, the note hidden in my pocket. Oliver glanced up. You look like you didn't sleep. Too much on my mind. I forced a smile. Nothing serious. Always thinking, Marissa said with a faint laugh. That's what makes him interesting. Oliver gave her a quick look. Is that so? Her eyes flicked to mine for only a second before she turned away. Oliver returned to his phone, but I could feel his suspicion prickling through the air. That evening, he packed a bag for another overnight trip. Work again? I asked, standing in the doorway as he zipped it shut. Client meeting out of town. He glanced at me, his tone casual. You'll keep Marissa company, I'm sure. I stiffened. I'll just be around. He smirked, though it looked forced. Right. Around. Marissa appeared in the hall, arms crossed. You don't have to make it sound like that. Oliver kissed her quickly, grabbed his bag, and left. Without another word, the silence that followed was louder than the closing door. Marissa leaned against the wall, watching me. He trusts you, you know. I exhaled sharply. Does he? She stepped closer, her voice soft. Maybe more than he should. I tried to move past her, but she caught my wrist gently. Did you get my note? My chest tightened. Yes. Her eyes held mine, and it meant more than it should have. Why should it be wrong to be grateful? Because gratitude isn't what you were saying. Her lips curved faintly. You read between the lines too well? I pulled my wrist free, though I didn't step back. Marissa, we can't keep doing this. Doing what? Talking? Looking? Existing in the same space? She tilted her head. Or are you afraid of admitting how much you want to answer me back? My voice dropped, almost a whisper. You know the answer. Her eyes softened. Then why are we still standing apart? I stepped back toward my room. Because he's my brother. She lingered in the hall, and I'm his wife. But tonight, he's not here. Only you are. My hand froze on the doorknob. Good night, Callum, she whispered. Her voice trembling like it carried 100 things unsaid. I closed the door before I could betray myself. The room was dark, quiet, suffocating. I sat on the edge of the bed, the note still burning in my pocket. I pulled it out and set it on the nightstand. Staring at those 7 words, thank you for seeing me. I lay down, but my eyes never left the paper. The walls felt too thin, the silence too alive, and though I never opened the door again that night, I didn't sleep. The note glowed in the shadows like a secret I could never bury. Asterisk, Marissa knocked on my door late in the afternoon. Callum, she said softly, I need your help in the shed. I followed her outside. The air smelled of rain from earlier, damp earth clinging to everything. She opened the door, and we stepped into the narrow space, dimly lit by the fading daylight. The latch is loose, she explained, pointing at the side wall. Oliver keeps saying he'll fix it, but he never does. I crouched down, examining the hinge. You'll need a screwdriver. She handed me one from the shelf. Her fingers brushed mine as I took it, warm against my skin. Neither of us moved. Away, sorry, she murmured. You're not, I replied without thinking. Her eyes locked on mine. You're right, I'm not. I turned back to the hinge, forcing my hands to stay busy. If Oliver finds me out here with you, he'll ask questions. He always asks questions. The real danger is when he stops. I tightened the screw, my pulse racing. That sounds like a confession. She stepped closer. Maybe it is. I handed her a nail to hold. Our hands touched again, This time her fingers lingered. She didn't let go. Marissa, I whispered. She didn't move. Her hand told me to stop. My throat felt dry. I can't. Her palm pressed against mine, trembling. The shed was silent except for our uneven breaths. You see me, Callum? She said, her voice breaking. No one else does. Not even him. Don't say that, I said, though I wanted her to keep going. It's the truth. Her eyes shone. Every day I disappear a little more. And then you look at me and suddenly I exist again. I swallowed hard. We're walking a line we can't come back from. Her grip tightened. Then don't let go. I didn't. My hand stayed, wrapped around hers, every nerve screaming. I wanted to close the space between us, to give in, to erase the distance that had been burning for weeks. The world outside didn't matter anymore. Not the shed, not the house, not Oliver. Only her. Her lips parted like she was about to say something. But before she could, a voice cut through the air. Marissa. Callum Oliver. We froze. His footsteps crunched on the gravel outside. He was home early. Maurice's hand slipped from mine instantly. She backed up, her face pale. I shoved the screwdriver onto the shelf, forcing my body to calm. Oliver's shadow passed across the door. What are you two doing out here? Fixing the latch, I said quickly. Marissa forced a smile. It was coming loose again. Oliver peered inside. His eyes moved from her to me. You could have waited until tomorrow. I was free, I answered, keeping my tone light. He studied me for a moment, too long, before nodding. At dinner's almost ready. Come in. He walked back toward the house. Marissa exhaled sharply, her voice barely audible. That was too close. I looked at her hand, the one that had just been in mine. It already is. She held my gaze, her lips trembling. Then what do we do? I stepped past her, forcing myself toward the door. We survived tonight. She stayed behind, her breathing unsteady. I didn't turn back, because if I did, I wouldn't have been able to leave the shed at all. I was in the kitchen pouring a glass of water when Oliver walked in. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, studying me. You've been spending a lot of time with Marissa. I kept my voice steady. She asks for help. I give it. Smirked, but his eyes didn't match the smile. That all it is? Set the glass down? What are you getting at? He tilted his head. Come on, Callum. I've seen the way she looks at you. The way you look back. His chest tightened. You're imagining things. He gave a low laugh. Why, because if I asked her right now, would she deny it as quickly as you just did? Oliver, I said firmly, nothing is going on. His gaze stayed locked on mine, searching. You sure about that? 'Cause sometimes it feels like I'm the third wheel in my own house. The words cut. You're my brother. Do that to you. He pushed off the counter, stepping closer. I hope not. But I've learned not to trust appearances. People lie. Even the ones you think never would. I forced my voice calm. What are you really saying? Paused, then shook his head. Forget it. Maybe I'm just tired. Long week. We grabbed a beer from the fridge and left the room. My hand stayed frozen around the glass. The denial had come out too fast, too rehearsed. Guilt sat heavy in my throat. Later that night I found Marissa in the hallway. She leaned against the wall, arms folded, her eyes dark with thought. He asked you to, didn't he? She whispered. I nodded. He suspects. She drew in a shaky breath. He suspects everything. That's why he acts so cold sometimes. He thinks everyone is against him. That's not what I saw, I said. He wasn't cold. He was sharp, like he already knew. She stepped closer, her voice low. Then let me tell you something. His hands aren't clean either. I frowned. What does that mean? She held my stare. He hasn't been faithful. Not for a long time. The air shifted. You're saying he cheated? She gave a bitter laugh. I don't have to say it. He doesn't hide it as well as he thinks. Late meetings that don't exist.
Nice.
Messages he forgets to delete.
Nice.
I stopped confronting him because the lies were worse than the truth. My chest burned. Why didn't you tell me before? Eyes glistened. Because I wanted to believe he'd come back to me. And if I held on long enough, he'd remember who I was to him. And now, I asked. Now she whispered. Stepping even closer, I see him clearly, and I see you. Her hand brushed mine, feather-light but deliberate. I pulled back, my voice strained. Marissa, this doesn't make it right. She searched my face. No, it doesn't. But it makes it real. I shook my head, trying to breathe. If he finds out he already knows something, she cut in, and he has no right to point fingers when he's guilty himself. Her words spun through me like fire and ice at once. Everything I thought I knew about Oliver's marriage felt cracked and unstable. I finally forced myself to step back. I need air. She didn't stop me. She only whispered as I walked away. You're the only one who sees me, Callum. Remember that? Left her in the hallway, my pulse pounding, Oliver's voice echoing in my head, and Marissa's confession. Burning even deeper, I found Marissa sitting at the dining table, staring at her untouched glass of wine. Her hands trembled against the stem, and when she looked up at me, her eyes were swollen with tears. Callum, she whispered, I can't keep pretending anymore. I pulled out the chair across from her. What happened? Her voice cracked. It's Oliver. He's been seeing someone. More than once, I froze. How do you know? I've seen the messages, she said, biting her lip hard. Name the hotel reservations. Even the pictures he didn't bother hiding. He doesn't love me anymore. He hasn't for a long time. The silence between us was suffocating. Why didn't you say something earlier? She shook her head. Because I wanted to believe I was wrong. I wanted to believe he'd choose me again. But every trip he takes, every night he comes home, smelling like someone else's perfume, it gets harder to lie to myself. Anger burned in my chest. He doesn't deserve you. Her laugh came bitter and sharp. Maybe he does. Maybe I was never enough for him. Maybe I was never enough. For anyone. I leaned forward, my voice firm. Don't say that. You're more than enough. He's the one who failed, not you. Her eyes locked on mine, wet with pain. Then why does it feel like I'm disappearing? Like I'm invisible in my own marriage? I reached across the table, my hand brushing hers. She didn't pull away. You're not invisible, I see you. Her breath caught. That's why I've let this go so far with you. You notice me, you hear me. He hasn't asked how I feel in months. Not once. Marissa, I said carefully, whatever Oliver has done, it doesn't make this right. What we're doing is dangerous. Her voice broke. I don't care about right anymore. I just wanted love, even if it came from the wrong place. The weight of her words hit me like a blow. You can't mean that. Tears streamed down her face. I do. Because when you look at me, I remember I'm still a woman. Not just Oliver's forgotten wife. Not just someone he leaves behind. I pushed my chair back and came around to her side. She buried her face in my chest as the sobs shook through her. My arms went around her, holding her tight, her body trembling. With years of neglect finally breaking free, I can't do this alone anymore, she whispered against me. I've been carrying this pain, pretending I was fine, smiling at dinners, laughing at parties, when all I wanted was to scream. And then you walked in, and you made me feel seen again. I closed my eyes, the guilt and the pull tearing me apart. I shouldn't be the one holding you right now. It should be him. Her fingers curled into my shirt, but it isn't him. It's you, and I don't want to let go. I pulled back just enough to look at her face. Her eyes were raw, vulnerable, searching for something I wasn't sure I had the right to give. We're standing on a line we can't uncross, I whispered. Her lips trembled. Maybe we already crossed it the moment we admitted what he's done. The truth sat heavy between us. Oliver had betrayed her first, but that didn't erase the betrayal growing between her and me. Still, in that moment, none of it mattered as much as the way she looked at me. As if I was the only solid ground left in her world. She leaned her forehead against mine. And for a breathless second, it felt like nothing existed outside the space. Between us, no lies, no guilt, no Oliver. Just two people drowning in the same storm. I didn't kiss her, she didn't kiss me. But everything in that silence was louder than words. When she finally stepped back, her voice was barely audible. I don't know what happens now. Neither did I. All I knew was that the truth was out. The mask was gone. Nothing in this house would ever be the same again. Asterisk. Oliver's voice roared from the living room, shaking the walls. How long have you known? He shouted. Marissa stood her ground, arms crossed, her voice steady. Long enough. You didn't even bother hiding it anymore. His face twisted. You went through my phone, she fired back. I didn't have to. I left it out like you. Wanted me to see? Do you think I'm blind? The receipts, the perfume, the late-night calls? You wanted me to know, Oliver, because you didn't have the courage to tell me yourself? I stood in the doorway, caught in the storm. My heart pounded so hard I thought they might hear it. Oliver jabbed a finger at her. You don't get to act like the victim. You pushed me away. Her laugh was cold. I begged you to see me, begged you to love me, and you chose someone else every time. He turned his anger toward me, and you, standing there like you don't have blood on your hands. Do you know what it's like watching my wife run to my brother with her problems instead of me? I swallowed hard. I never asked for this. No, he said, voice sharp, but you didn't stop it either. Marissa cut in before I could answer. Don't you dare turn this on him. You broke us long before Callum ever stepped in. Broke me. Oliver's jaw clenched, his chest rising and falling like he was holding back something violent. So what then, Marissa? You're done? Just like that? Her eyes shone, not with tears, but with fire. Yes, I'm done being your afterthought. I'm done waiting for you to choose me. I deserve better. He staggered back like her words. We're a physical hit. You'd throw away everything we built? She held her chin high. You already did. Silence crashed down. The only sound was Oliver's uneven breathing. He whispered, almost to himself, You'll regret this. Marissa shook her head. No, I'll regret staying any longer. She turned and walked toward the stairs. Oliver didn't follow. His fists were tight, his pride bleeding into the carpet beneath him. I couldn't move. But Marissa paused at the bottom step and looked at me. Her eyes searched mine, full of something I couldn't name. Longing, regret, a silent plea. I whispered, Marissa. Her voice broke softly. What if it had been you? The air left. My lungs? I didn't answer, couldn't answer. She gave me one last look, then disappeared up the stairs. Oliver sank into a chair, broken, angry, lost. I stood frozen in the doorway, my chest burning with secrets I could never tell. Karma had played its hand. Oliver lost her to his own betrayal. But I was the one left haunted, aching with what I almost had and what I could never claim.